So we're back with the modified Sonora, and I'm going to be removing the BSR turntable so I can give it a service. Now it's got a few connectors in here. Let's see, there's this one. And what I'm going to be doing is just marking the cables with some yellow electrical tapes that I can find. Right, I don't know if it's really important which way each one goes, but in case it is, I'm gonna mark them. There we go, that's the power. And the audio cables are plugged in down here. Now I can't really see what's... They're certainly plugged in firm. Unless they sound spring-loaded. Oh, they're not plugs. They just clip. Okay, that one is the left. This one's the right. Okay, well, the rubber one was the left. The outer sheathing is the right. And I might just put a bit of tape on the right one, although it's pretty obvious as to which one's which. And that's all disconnected. Well, I need to undo this. Now, let's put some tape on the lamp cord again. I don't think it's important, but in case there's a reason they did everything this way, better safe than sorry. There we go. Now I'll take this down the back so I can give it a service. So we're back with the BSR GU4 turntable unit, and it turned out this mat wasn't really glued down very well at all. There was only a little bit of glue and I got it off with a spatula, just sliding it gently in between. The problem is it's still stuck. I can't actually pry it off. I think it's stuck around here. So I've brought some steel rulers, and maybe I'll be able to pry it off without cracking this mat into pieces. Because I think it's thicker in the middle and it gets stuck on that. There we go, that one's in the middle. Maybe I'll try and go alongside. Oh, here we go. Okay, you can see barely any glue at all. I probably won't even glue this down. I will see, because it's very solid at the moment. I'm not even going to try and bend it, it'll just shatter. I will try and soften this up, I think, at some point. I read apparently, I think it was a brake cleaner or something, you can soak it in. Although, apparently, from this forum, you have to be careful. If you leave it in too long, it'll discolour the plastic. So, I don't know. Because I know there's some stuff you can buy that'll actually that'll rejuvenate it, but it's very expensive. And I'd only use it for very small parts. I can always just put a cork mat on for now anyway. Oh, and I think the final joke has got to be that my one at least is missing the clip. Maybe that's why it was so easy to remove, although there's no tracer glue on this at all. It's very beautiful. But yeah, oh, sorry about the noise, but there is no clip, so I don't know what was it must have been. I think the mat itself was holding it on. It was just very well stuck around the middle. Mine does not have its clip. It's probably been lost at some point. Someone decided that the screw was more than enough security. Oh, and speaking of the screw, again, here it is. Let's see if I can actually show it. The lighting is not ideal, but here's the screw, and just undo it. Let's see. I'll probably just take it all the way out. And we'll see if anything happens. I've got a tin to put them in, which is always a good idea. Should do it more often. Still stuck. This is definitely going well. I don't see any reason for it to be stuck. I wonder if I can fit a small screwdriver in there. No. Just to push it, but that doesn't work either. Oh well, I'm just going to try pulling it up. It's probably stuck with old grease or something. I don't think it's moving. Be careful not to damage the cables because they're... Yep, I think it's moving. Oh, and a bit of the rubber, one of the rubber motor grommets has come off. I'm going to have to replace them. I'm probably just going to stack O-rings for now. That's what I've done with another record player. Yeah, I think it might be coming off. I hope I'm not mangling anything as I do this. You know, what am I doing? There's only one answer to this. Only one answer to solve this problem, and I will be back in a minute. Now that was actually less than a second for you, but as I said, there was only one answer. There is only one answer to this problem, and that is CUD40. You might be saying, what's CUD40? It's WD-40, but no, that's CUD40, isn't it? It's what happens when you buy your stuff from markets. Yes, suspiciously cheap from markets, and the cap just went flying off. Well, the top. So you know it is premium quality. Yes, it is CUD40 penetrating oil, anti-rust spray lubricant, anti-grippant, and it's also extremely flammable. Of course it is. Description seems all normal. Anyway, let's give it a shot. And let's see if it does anything at all. I'm going to have to clean this out anyway afterwards. But there we go. Let's hope this thing isn't some horrifying corrosive or something that's just pretending to be a CUD40. But anyway, while we wait for that to penetrate, you can see it's a very simple mechanism. There we go. The speed control is purely just this thing, just a bent plate here. And when you twist the knob, the steps move. Although, as you can see, it needs a clean out because here the lighting is atrocious. Anyway, sorry about that. But here, now you can see it. You can see that here is supposed to move with this little lever, sprung lever. But it's gummed up. If I give it a pull, and a push, and I think there's something here, there. If I push that, there we go. Now, I wouldn't say it works, but it moves more than it did before. And you can see how it's supposed to work. So that definitely needs a little bit of cleaning out. But that's really all there is to it, really, on the motor itself, which I'll probably open up and give a clean to, because it's nice and simple, just some 4 screws. Anyway, let's see if CUD40 has made any difference whatsoever. And if it does improve it, it will definitely be a recurring thing on the channel. Let's see. It'd be hilarious if there's some tiny clip that I haven't spotted, but I don't see any. I'm sort of thinking of putting a screwdriver in there, but that's just gonna bend things, and I don't want to. Oh, is it? Still quite still. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure this is supposed to. Yeah, this is supposed to turn. So let's see. I don't want to wreck the arm either. Come on. Here we go. Oh, and it is the bearing. This thing is fixed. So, that is very interesting. This screw didn't need to come out after all. Oh well, I can't clean out the CUD-40. Not that it matters. Oh, actually... yeah, now I'm really confused. Surely that's meant to turn with it. What? Yeah, a stop is not going to be much good if it isn't moving, so... yeah. Okay. Oh, that's meant to be attached to that. Yep, this is a bearing, and this is definitely... ooh, that is stuck. You can see there's grease in there, but it is really gummed up. The idler wheel is mangled somewhat. Yep, from being stuck probably and then being twisted about. Looks still serviceable though. The rim itself is alright, and actually got some texture to it too. So I think it'll do the job. Again, with a little cleaning. You can see, I don't know, it is falling apart a bit. We'll see. You can see these are actually sprung little things. That's why one of them's mangled. Although I might further spring them on the cabinet as well. I've got a little plan for that, but we'll get to that later. First, we need some more CUD-40. It's much lighter now that I've removed that. Anyway, yep, the motor. Oh, that's probably what causes it. This just swings wherever. Probably because the motor mounts are, the grommets are wrecked. Now let's see if I can get this idler wheel off. Oop. Got it. It's a little wire. And yeah, oh, here we go. Okay, they're just very fine. Now I don't know if they were both on top or one underneath. No, I think they were both underneath. Anyway, I'll be careful with those. They're just little rings. I do have some stuff that I could use as replacements, and yeah, I can see. There you can see where the rubber has been damaged by the. I've forgotten what it's called. The motor thingy. Yes, the motor thingy. And this is an odd design. This is sprung. Never seen anything like that. But it all needs a clean. The grease has all gone hard. I think this might still work. Because yeah, I don't know where you can get these rebuilt where I live. Anyway, this I'm probably going to need to use some pliers wrapped in, I don't know, maybe a bit of leather or something to try and, or cloth to get that out. And put a bit more CUD because I'm not sure it's as effective as the real stuff. And I think I'll remove the motor. Never been removed. Actually, those blue things don't do much. But it looks like it hasn't been removed. Although, actually, maybe the blue stuff would have been all over it at the time. But there we go, there's one mount. Oh, one screw. There we go. And yep, the rubber is just completely gone. Oh, and those wires are very short. Oh no, it's because they're clipped in. So this screw here will undo the clip that holds the motor wires in place so they don't interfere. So just loosening that maybe. Yep, that gets them off, which gives me a little more room to move the motor out of the way. And yeah, the rubber is just falling apart. One of them is still intact. That is impressive. For how long, I don't know, but until I can get replacements, I might just use O-rings, or I might just leave this in pieces like what I normally do. That needs greasing. So let's see, there's a screw here. Or maybe, oh, I know what I'll do. I'm not going to undo that screw there. What I suggest is what I normally do, which is remove whatever clip is at the bottom here. So first we'll get that out of the way, and now this is working fine. Oh, that's an interesting design. I think that is so that it sort of protects the idler wheel, but it hasn't worked in this case. Anyway, unclip that, and now you have to be very careful. Some actually have ball bearings in this mechanism, but this one's simple enough that it doesn't. And I have ended up searching for hours trying to find a ball bearing that was sprung onto the ground. Anyway, when we get this spring out, so we'll push this up, and then we can slide the spring past, pull that off, and there's a washer on the top. So I think I'm going to put the clip back on here so we don't lose that washer, and also so I just keep a track of where the clip goes. These are actually, they're easier to deal with than those stupid E clips and C clips and all that. But really, ow, I should be using a screwdriver. Yeah, they're easier to deal with, but also a pain to find. Would be also a pain to find, or try to find. Anyway, another washer, that was from the other end of the spring, and the spring is fine, so I'll put that in the tin. But I'll give this a clean. And that doesn't need a clean, that all works fine. That shouldn't really need much, that doesn't need any lubrication or anything, that's all good. And again, the stop mechanism all seemed fine. It's just that the bearing in the centre is just stuck. Yeah, I don't know. Because here, this is what I think acts on the, you know, on the stop, isn't it? It was fitted like this. So this must spin. I'm sure it was turning with it earlier. So this needs to be cleaned out. Oh well. Anyway, I'll probably do that off camera. And I'll do the motor in a minute. And I'll see you right after this. Okay, so now we're going to try and remove the spindle. And it seems, I'm not sure I'm going to get much of a grip with this cloth. But I don't want to mar it. It's not really doing much. Let's see if I can just pull it out. Okay, so I'm going to try and get the centre spindle out. I've got some pliers and now I've got some rubber. It's actually an old inner tube of a bicycle that I found lying about, so let's see if it... Yeah, it seems to sort of get... I don't know, I think for a bit I got a grip, but it didn't really work. No, I don't want to wreck it. It's turning. Something, yeah, it's turning a bit. Maybe it's bigger pliers or something. How on earth did this turn before? Oh, here we go. There it is. A lot of oil and grease. So just a bit of a wipe here. Oh, there we go for now. And you may have noticed some marks, especially around here. Around there, some marks. And I first thought those might be rust or something, and I was a bit worried that it was all wrecked, that it had been wrecked a bit. But there was another mark like that here, and it came off very nice and easily, so let's see what happens with a bit of alcohol, whether this goes away or not. Some of it's leaving. Oh, that's very pleasing. So that won't... Again, not sure if it's visible, but a good bit of it just disappeared. So they're not it's not rust. It's just dirt. I'll clean it up later. We've got other problems to solve. Such as, well, I'll need to clean the idler wheel mechanism, all that. First I'll just clean these motor grommet. Well, the remnants of the motor grommets and idler wheel bits off. Anyway, I'll probably cut that all out. But the idler mechanism. So, oh no, it's not visible. Anyway, so here is the idler mechanism. Now I was going to grease here, this bit, but I can't actually get it apart. It's all riveted together, so I suppose it was never meant to be greased. But everything else we oiled and greased. Now there's a rule that I've learnt about oil and whether you grease something or oil it, and it is if it's a pivot you oil it, and if it slides you put grease. So as far as I know that's usually true, but I've got some grease here. I suppose this thing sort of both pivots and slides, so I'll put grease on it. I think that's better for this bit. But you can see I've cleaned this point here, this brass bit where the idler assembly slides up and down, and I'll put grease. I'll put a bit of grease in here around the top, because it certainly slides around the top, and I'll grease the shaft. So I'll get this little clip back off. These are very easy actually to get off just with your with a finger and thumb, which I think is a really, really good design. Anyway, I should actually just leave that. I'll put a bit of grease here because that's where that washer goes, and it should have something to slide about on. There we go. That washer fits on there. Yeah, we can see this just... well, actually first, just grease it. You shouldn't put too much, but enough that it actually does something. Then that should be plenty. There we go. Now I've put a little much, just wipe it off the end. The good thing about grease is it stays in place, that's why you use it. I'll put that on for now. And now the first thing I need is the spring. So the spring will fit over here. Oh, sorry if you couldn't see that. But again, the spring will fit over here. Then that shaft will slide down. Then this washer goes on. And finally this little spring clip. Just clips into place like that. I'll probably give it a final clean. That seems to... oh no, here we go. No, I think I'll leave a bit of grease on there because it does slide. And there we go. That's all working fine. Anyway, so now I've got this part of the idler assembly, and there's a bit of rust here unfortunately, even though I gave it a bit of a clean. Although the little, I don't know, they're sort of plasticky sort washers fit over there, so it should all be fine anyway. Let's see if it gets... there we go. So it was these little plasticky washers. I don't know, they're sort of, I think there's some sort of fibrous stuff. There's one more. There we go. And of course, spring clip. So I'll give those a clean first. The usual thing, just with some alcohol. Sometimes these things are red, or at least they were originally red. And I could replace them, but I think their thickness is usually quite important, and I don't like replacing things when they're still alright. Anyway, I'm just going to soak them in some oil when I fit them. And I think they were all on the bottom. So just give them a bit of a clean to get some of the dirt off. This one seems to have split. That shouldn't be much of a problem. And let's get some oil. A bit. Oh, that was way too much. Clumsy me. Always good to have some paper towel handy, because you never know when you accidentally pour way too much oil on. Anyway, a little bit more on the side, just to soak the washing. And then I'll put a bit of oil in here. There we go. You have to be careful not to get oil on the rubber itself, on the idler tyre, because that will mess up with grip. Although you can always just clean it off with alcohol afterwards, see, because I just got some on it. And I'll give it a wipe afterwards with some alcohol to just keep it clean. It'll clean the dirt off too, because there's usually a bit of dirt on it after 70 years or so. And we've got the clip. And this time I'll just use a screwdriver because they're a little stiff. There we go. And that suddenly works much better. Yeah, when the turntable's there and the motor stepped spindle, that'll work much more smoothly, because right now it's getting stuck with its little retaining pin thing there, down there. Anyway, now to the main bearing. Not really much of a bearing, it's just a sort of, I don't know, thing. I'm going to do the same thing of giving it a clean with this. Now I do wonder if there's a ball bearing at the bottom, in which case I'll have to be very careful to not let it escape, because I know I have lost a ball bearing once, and I was being careful that time too, because I knew it was there, but I somehow dropped it out anyway, even when being careful, and then spent a little while at night going around with a torch, which has actually made it easier probably, because it was the one shiny thing on the concrete. I don't see any bearing or anything in there. So the question is, when do you stop cleaning? I suppose technically you should stop cleaning once it's actually fully clean, but sometimes it gets very hard to reach that point. And yeah, once it's only a tiny little mark, sometimes if you can see the thing, it's not actually dirt, it's just a sort of stain on the thing. But we're getting pretty close. I think it's going to be pretty clean soon. And while I suppose this is a pivot, because it's a bearing, I think I'll probably grease it and oil it. So I haven't had problems with the grease and oil reacting with each other, and I think it'll go alright. Because I actually can't tell if there's anything in there. I think there's some sort of bearing point. I don't know whether it doesn't look like a ball. It looks like just a point that it rests on. So I think that wants grease. And yeah, that's coming out clean. Again, it's probably not perfectly clean, but I think that is pretty close. And that means I'll just put some grease just on the spindle. Oh, of course. Where did I put it? I'm doing my videos about losing something. Oh, there it is. It's over here. I need to clean this. Now, I already went over it with the paper towel, just wiped off most of the grease. And now just give it a little clean to get all the rest off. But you can see that's where it spins on. You can see it's much shinier than the rest of the metal. That little point there. Okay, so I've cleaned the spindle, looks pretty nice now. And before we fit everything and grease it all, I'm going to put this in, and we're going to see if I can figure out where this goes, at what height. So this goes in like that, and I think this sort of sat just above, because actually when I put it on, that seems a little low. I think it rests, because you see this dark bit, and then there's the silver bit. I think this rests just there, like that. Because then the turntable sits on this dark bit here. So I'm going to tighten the screw down. Let's see if my screwdriver is small enough. Because around this blue paint, I don't know if it's focusing or not, but there's a screw. And I just gave it a little tighten, and it turns out that was all it needed. And let's see, it still spins, and that should be enough to trigger whatever mechanism, to trigger the auto brake and all that, the on-off auto brake stuff. There we go. So now, all I need to do is grease it up. This will probably take quite a bit of grease. So first we need to put a big blob at the bottom, because remember there's that big sort of hole, there's that big empty space. This looks like a place where it's supposed to sort of be packed with grease, so I will fill that. There we go. And then just apply a bit around here. And this will probably be enough for all of it. I'm not going to put that much actually in the hole. I'm just going to put a little bit around the edge in case anything rubs. That way it hopefully doesn't do much damage. Not on the paint. I think that's more than enough. And you know what, I'm going to put a drop of oil, because this oil has not caused any problems with this grease on everything else, and I usually just sort of do a mix. I suppose it keeps the grease more liquidy. Maybe it's a bad idea, but again, it so far hasn't caused any problems, and I think now it has. Wow, that's a good fitting. Oh well, turns out well, I had to switch because switch cameras because the other one ran out of battery. Really should have been paying more attention. Anyway, it turns out that I probably shouldn't have put the oil in because it seems to be making such a good seal that it's just plugged it. Oh well, that it just sort of won't go in. Oh well, that was a dumb idea. Again, I'm used to ones with a proper bearing, not whatever this is. Anyway, I'll just give it a clean. So there's a lesson. This one, don't do a mix of oil and all that. Just put a bit of grease. Just put that seems alright. See, there's just a bit too much oil and all that was making a seal. So it spins nice and freely. It won't be as good as a proper bearing, but it'll do the job. Now let's see if this arm mechanism does anything. So you pull, and then as it's spinning, it'll go like that. Oh, and it'll, I think it's actually a little tall. I think this metal is actually a little tall, so I'm going to put it a little lower, and we'll see how it goes, because it's actually bending this little arm more than I think it should. This little spring-loaded arm, which I think I'll just put a drop of oil on, because it sounds a little dry. Too low. I think that might be a bit better. You know, I might put it even lower. But again, I don't want it scraping the metal plate. Yeah, that scrapes. And that will mess with the playing of the record and just cause wear and all that. So, again, around here, I think was actually pretty good. Yep. No scraping. And I'm going to put a very small dab of grease on this little track, again to reduce wear because it's sliding. And a little bit of oil, which of course ended up being a lot of bit of oil, just there. I don't know where all this stuff came from. Maybe, oh, this is probably from me trying to clean out to get out the turntable with the GU4, which I must say actually worked, surprisingly. So yeah, go out and buy a GU4. Anyway, that's that sorted. Now for the motor. First I'll clean off all this gunk. Don't want it falling into a service motor, although the motor spins fine, but I'm going to give it a clean up anyway since we're here. And now to unscrew it. Let's see what sort of screw we got. This fit. Yeah, that seems alright. Oh, that's very good. I think I'll stick with the littler one. Because again, everything's very thin slots for some reason. And I've got a socket set here. I don't even need the screwdriver, this just unscrewed. That was nice and easy. There we go. Okay, let's see. Well, that cover just slides off very easily. So does this, and there we go. The motor is disassembled. I'll put that one actually back on, like that, to protect the cable. And here we go. I can't actually remove it without removing this, and oh, there is a screw there, but I might end up messing everything up if I remove that. We'll see. Oh, I think I can remove it without causing any trouble. I'll just remember that it's a tiny little bit under the spindle. There's just a tiny edge there. With this I'll just give everything a clean. Just alcohol, sort of wipe everything down, get the dirt off. Oh, that's actually really clever. This thing actually pivots a bit so that the housing, if the housing's not perfect, it'll tolerate that. And this is actually already loose, so let's just unscrew it. And I'll get a ruler. I don't think it's barely a distance that's measurable. It was 1 millimeter. So it is, yes, measurable, but not really much to worry about. There we go. Yeah, so almost finished cleaning this up. You can see it's a little rusty, but shouldn't cause any problems. Anyway, Now, these bearings, I have heard that some of them at least have this sort of oil-impregnated bronze, and I think it's done under pressure. They put oil into the bronze or something somehow, but yeah, under pressure. And I can't do that, so I'm just going to put some oil in and hope that doesn't cause any problems, because they do look dry to me. So drop oil in there, fit that in. Here is the cleaned, what you call them, the rotor. Well, I think there's rotors and stators, and that's stationary wires and the rotating ones. But anyway, or coils. Anyway, I don't remember the parts properly, so just put that back together. And then, of course, clean off the excess. And that spins quite nicely. And then there's this little unit, which I will also give a clean, so that the idler doesn't slip. Because that can be the problem though, the idler wheel, sometimes the problem is just the idler wheel has worn smooth and isn't gripping, or this is just dirty, and it also isn't gripping. So yeah. Now again, we'll get that to, I think it was a little under 1 millimeter and it moved as I measured. So it was about like that. Of course, with the O-rings and all that, it'll probably have to be adjusted anyway. So, I'll bolt this all back together. And then I'll try and attach it using a stacks of O-rings. Okay, so I attempted fitting my rubber things, but that didn't work at all. They're the wrong size and everything. I'll see if I can buy some new ones. And there's just a few more things I need to do. I'm not going to be fitting it today. I'm going to put that screw back. It turns out it just holds the spindle in. Although, as to whether that's supposed to be one part or something, I don't know. But anyway, let's put that screw back in. So now everything's sort of... Oh well, I'm not going to be able to show it very well. Oh no, it comes pretty clear, but it's here. And I'll just screw that in. Because they're slotted screws, they are very hard, they don't stay in the screwdriver. So let's see if I can just, there we go. There we go, that's alright. Give it a little wipe to get the oil off. And there's one more thing that I want to do to the underside, because these are sprung. But again, they don't rest properly on the case, and they put foam here, and you probably saw that on the case. So my idea is to use a washer, a spring, like that, another washer, and then twist on this nut. These nuts don't actually fit properly, but they twist on enough to hold everything on. And so my idea is, I'm not actually going to have them on now because they're just going to put strain on these nuts which aren't going to be screwed on properly. But these nuts are just, the nuts are just there to hold this on. This one now isn't screwing on at all. It's much harder when it's sprung. But it's just there to hold it on long enough for me to place it down, and hopefully the nut fits in the hole. Otherwise, I'm going to have to come up with something else. I'm going to have to see if I can find some smaller ones. to fit on these bolts, and this just holds it on like that, so I can fit it into the holes in the motorboard and it will just rest on these springs. These springs are a little strong, so we'll see how that goes. It'll just be something to keep it off a bit. I might see if I can find some smaller springs, but it'll just keep it from having the ugly foam. It'll just be a lot neater than the current situation. Anyway, I'll just put the turntable back on because all this upper stuff is sorted out. Oh, actually, no, just get away. Well, actually, it isn't all sorted out, but most of it is. Because the motor still needs to be attached. So that's something I have to remember, so I don't just pick it up and yank the cords out. Anyway, put it out. It looks very pretty. It's almost a shame. Yeah, I think it's almost a shame to put a mat on it. I wonder if there's any clear rubber mats. That would look really cool, but I'm going to use the original one. Although temporarily I'll probably use a cork one I've got. But that spins nicely, doesn't it? And it fits, yeah, and it spins on the bearing. So I'd say that's halfway there to fixed. And there's one more thing as when it comes to rubber. I found this thing here, and I don't actually know where it came from. I'm a little concerned because it's not off the motor grommets. Because, well, they're this. At least I don't think it's off the motor grommets, unless it's the top of one or something. Nah. I have no idea where this came off. Maybe I'll find it in the video, but if I don't, if someone recognises what it could possibly be off, that would be helpful. Anyway, thanks for watching.